Spike rested his elbows on his bedroom windowsill. Snow-covered Ponyville looked so small from 3 stories up, especially with the evening's dim light obscuring so many details. He knew ponies all over town were just now setting up their lanterns and stoking their fireplaces. Soon, the little pinpoints of light dotting the scene before him would be the only thing illuminating the night. The dense cloud cover overhead left the days gray and the nights moonless. Far below the window, he could make out 3 trails of hoofprints in the snow that converged at the castle's doorstep. He put a claw to the glass and traced each trail, one to the rolling hills that hid Sweet Apple Acres from sight, one to the unmistakably cake-shaped Sugar Cube Corner downtown, and one to Carousel Boutique, where the most beautiful pony in the world lived. Peaceful moments like this almost made time stand still. Time didn't actually do that, though. Time moved swiftly, especially around here. Years flew by, adventures were had, and friendships grew ever stronger. Twilight was more than a unicorn now. Spike was more than a baby dragon, and if the last few months were anything to go by, Rarity was fast becoming more than just his friend. Twilight called to him from down the hall.
Spike, everybody's here. Aren't you coming?
Spike backed away from the window and nodded.
Yeah, I'll be right there, Twilight.
He took one last glance at the mirror, ran a hand through the spikes on his head, and patted the large wooden chest next to his closet. Hearth-swarming Eve was just 3 weeks away, and a chest jam-packed with gems meant he'd have no trouble affording gifts for all his friends. This year he could get them all something extra special, and have enough left over to really wow Rarity. They'd been spending more and more time together lately, and whenever they walked down the main street, he'd notice her glancing at a certain shop window and the shiny new sewing machine on display within. He polished the edge of the chest with his elbow and then headed for the door.
Just 3 weeks, Rarity. Just 3 more weeks.
Downstairs in the main hall, his 6 closest friends were engaging in their usual chatter. Only Starlight Glimmer was missing, thanks to her spending the holidays with Sunburst. He strolled down the staircase, running his hand over the garland-wrapped banister as he did so. From the wreaths hanging on the doors to the candy canes decorating the walls, the castle had never looked more festive. He paused on the last step and waved hello.
Hey, every pony! Who's up for some of Spike's famous hot chocolate?
A round of cheers swept through the room, along with the unisonous
Thanks, Spike!
Rarity held up a hoof.
Oh, do remember to add a little extra cinnamon to mine, won't you, Spiky?
He winked.
Sure thing, Rarity.
She matched his smile, and unless he was mistaken, held eye contact for a moment longer than she had intended to.
Thank you.
A few hours later, they were all seated around the table, with empty mugs and full bellies. Spike reclined in his chair, supremely happy with how the evening had turned out. Tonight was more than just a good time with his friends. Tonight was a sign of things to come. After all these years of quietly trying to figure out how to win Rarity's favor, she seemed to be figuring it out for him. She was seated to his right, talking about her latest trip to Manhattan, in that melodious voice of hers. She'd been next to him all night, and didn't seem capable of going more than 10 minutes without giving him a quick glance and a warm smile. Twilight's hoof gently kicked his left foot. He glanced over and saw her eyes move from him to Rarity, and back again. He smiled back. Applejack gave a mighty yawn.
but I'm fixing to call it a night.
Fluttershy nodded.
I should go too. Angel's been very needy since his ear straightening operation. He might need an extra lullaby to fall asleep tonight.
Spike bit his tongue to keep himself from grinning. Seeing that annoying bunny stuck on bed rest with both ears in casts was still one of the funniest things he'd seen in months. Fluttershy sighed and stared at the table, her smile gone.
I just wish he wouldn't fight me about taking his medication. Those pills were so expensive. I can't afford to buy more if he just keeps spitting out the ones that Vet gave me.
I feel for you, Sugar Cube. Winter is a lean enough time down on the farm, and this year the harvest just wasn't what it should have been.
Twilight tapped a hoof on the table.
Applejack, Fluttershy, if either of you needs a little help from your friends.
Oh, that's okay, Twilight. The apples have been through worse and come out stronger for it.
I'm okay too. Thanks for offering, though.
Rarity cleared her throat.
Be that as it may, I'd like to suggest a little something that might ease the burden that Hearth-forming Eve places on each pony's time and resources. What if we were to do an anonymous gift exchange this year? Each of us puts our name in a hat. Every pony draws one name and gets that friend a gift. No pony knows who's getting a gift for who, or who gave them their gift after the gift exchange is over.
Spike gasped.
But
Well, I'll be. It's a hearth-warming miracle. Rarity said something, and I'm agreeing with it.
Applejack chuckled.
I'm in!
Pinkie shouted.
This makes the gift-giving and getting extra mysteriously fun!
Totally! This'll make my last-minute shopping so much easier!
Rainbow Dash said. Fluttershy clapped her hooves and smiled.
If it's only one gift, I could try doing something hoof-made this year. I've never had enough time to do that before.
All of Spike's objections died in his throat.
If it's easier on my friends, then how can I say no, right?
Twilight held a hoof out to Applejack.
Can we use your hat, AJ? Spike, could you get some paper and quills?
A ream of paper landed on the table, and Pinkie grinned.
I'm way ahead of you!
Spike chewed on his claws. This was really happening. If he drew Rarity's name, he was set he'd buy her the biggest, fanciest sewing machine known to ponykind, and have her name engraved on the side. In under a minute, Applejack's hat was upended on the center of the table and filled with slips of paper. Rarity retrieved the hat and mixed the papers around with her magic. Finally, she withdrew a slip of paper, glanced at the name written on it, and crumbled it up.
Would you care to go next, Spikey?
Sure!
If only they weren't all watching him. If only he could stick his nose in the hat and smell out her perfume-laced writing. Instead, he plucked out the first paper his claws touched and passed the hat to Twilight. A quick glance at the paper told him everything he needed to know. He'd drawn Fluttershy, and now his mission was to figure out who drew Rarity and convince them to trade with him through any means necessary. One look at Twilight was all it took to know who she'd drawn. Between their familial bond and her total lack of a poker face, Spike knew he'd be unwrapping a very nice book on Hearth-warming Eve. Pinkie came next, and honestly Spike had no idea what to make of her reaction. She simply took an emotionless look at the paper, stuffed it in her mouth, and mumbled something about tasty secrecy. The hat passed from pony to pony, none of whom gave obvious hints as to whom they'd drawn, or at least until it was Applejack's turn. Applejack's eyebrows shot up, and she stifled a gasp. Rainbow left her chair and hovered over the hat.
Ha! You drew me, didn't you?
Applejack covered the paper with a hoof.
I ain't saying nothing. This whole thing is anonymous, and I aim to keep it that way.
Oh yeah? Then you better not get me something fruit-related.
Maybe I'll give any pony here a whole barrel of cider for free. just in case they got a Rainbow Mane Pegasus to shop for.
Spike gnawed on his claws. Applejack had to be the one. Shopping for Rainbow was as easy as grabbing the closest knick-knack with the words Daring Do or Wonderbolt on it. Shopping Rarity, on the other hand, was like trying to get something for Princess Celestia. She already owned just about everything she actually wanted. The only gifts left to get were the ones she didn't know she wanted yet. Spike knew Rarity, though. He knew without a doubt that she wanted that new sewing machine, but didn't want to splurge on it for some reason. That's where he came in. He tuned out Applejack and Rainbow's continuing banter and gazed at his beloved. So help him, this would be Rarity's best hearth swarming ever. All he had to do was coax a little name trade out of a certain Stetson-wearing farm pony. Spike squinted in the morning sunlight. Only one hill stood between him and Sweet Apple Acres, a hill that had been transformed into a mountain of snow that clung to his feet like molasses. A freezing cold wind blew across the hill, instilling in him the exact opposite feelings that had accompanied last night's party. Instead of basking in the warmth of home, friends, and future romance, worry chilled him to the core. What if Applejack wouldn't trade with him, or even admit she'd drawn Rarity's name? What if she really hadn't, and he was trekking out here for nothing? Worries aside, he still had to try. He'd been trying for years in one form or another, and at last Rarity seemed to be taking notice. He couldn't let some dumb gift exchange ruin the last few months of sharing long glances over tea and longer walks through Ponyville.
I'm getting you that sewing machine for Hearth-swarming Eve, Rarity. If it's the last thing I...
Howdy, Spike.
Whoa!
Spike spotted Applejack on top of the hill just as he lost his footing and fell backward. The snow, for all the trouble it was to walk through, at least made for a soft landing. He stared up at the sky from his new vantage point, the start of an impromptu snow angel, and listened to Applejack's approaching hoofsteps. She stared down into the dragon-shaped impression he'd made and grinned.
Still working on your snow legs?
Being short doesn't help. Can't I just melt myself a path? The grass will grow back. Eventually.
How about I offer you a lift instead?
Spike picked himself up, brushed the lingering snow off his scales, and climbed onto her back. The snow mountain he'd been attempting to scale didn't look so formidable from up here.
Thanks, AJ. I was actually coming to the farm to see you.
Good, because that's where we're headed.
A few minutes later, Spike was seated at the Apple family kitchen table with his hands held up to the heat of the stove.
Thanks for the ride, Applejack. Feels so good to get in out of the cold.
Applejack had her head buried in the pantry.
Nothing to it, Spike. How about a little snack to warm up those scales? You look colder than an apple and an icicle.
That sounds great.
Without even thinking, he looked over her shoulder at what he assumed would be the current selection of snacks. Instead, he saw a disturbing amount of empty space. The shelves weren't bare, but compared to the usual almost overflowing nature of the Apple's pantry, they might as well have been.
On second thought, I'm good. I had a really big breakfast.
We ain't starving if that's what you're thinking.
Starving? Why would I think...
Applejack shut the pantry door.
I know you're trying to be nice and all, but you're not leaving this house without some warm food in your belly. We ain't so hard up that we can't treat a guest right.
Spike raised a claw to start an objection, despite having no idea how to voice one. All he could think of was the nearly bare shelves in the pantry. Applejack smiled.
How about we make something fresh? It'll heat the house, and I bet every pony else could use a little something too. In the mood for fritters, brown betties, pie? I guarantee they've all got about the same number of apples in them.
Spike touched his claws together.
That all sounds good. Can I at least help you bake?
Last time I let you do that, you just about wrecked the kitchen.
I was just over-enthusiastic. I cook for Twilight all the time. I'll do exactly what you tell me.
She nodded.
Fritters it is.
Hours full of prep work flew by. Spike found himself leaning over a bowl of batter, with a whisk in hand and the heat of the oven at his back. Behind him, Applejack was pulling the third tray out of the oven. He should have known that Applejack wouldn't stand for making 2 fritters, or even a dozen. By his count, they'd prepared 20 so far, and there was still plenty of batter left. Applejack slid a plate across the counter toward him. Spike eyed the fritter's golden brown crust and breathed in the sugary, mouth-watering scent.
It looks amazing, AJ.
She passed him a fork next.
Well, don't just stand there staring. Let me know how it tastes. I'll finish up with the batter.
Spike handed her the bowl, took the fork, and dug in.
Wow, it tastes amazing, too. I've never had one fresh out of the oven before.
I reckon a bunch of ponies down at the market haven't either. Soon as we're done here, I'm gonna run them all down there and see if I can sell out before they get cold.
I'd buy one. I'd buy 3.
Not eating all the product yourself is half the battle, Sugar Cube. So, there's a reason I was out in the snow looking for you. It's about the big gift exchange we're doing, and can I count on you to keep a secret under your hat?
Spike paused to swallow.
Sure. I was going to ask you if you wanted to
Because I drew Twilight's name. What in tarnation am I supposed to get a princess for Hearthswarm and Eve?
You got Twilight?
I can't just make every pony some apple beetles like I normally do. I gotta find something special for just Twilight that I can actually afford.
Spike just stared at her. She paused her mixing and waved a hoof in front of his eyes.
That's where you're supposed to come in, Sugar Cube. You got any bright ideas?
He blinked.
For Twilight?
You feeling okay?
He blinked again and thought back to the bare pantry shelves. Securing Rarity's name would have to wait.
Okay, I can help. Getting Twilight a present is easy.
Not when you're on my budget, it isn't.
Trust me, it is.
I'm all ears, Spike.
He clasped his hands together and looked around the room. Everything here, from floor to ceiling, looked homemade, or at least home-repaired.
The thing about Twilight is that she really loves gifts that say a lot about the pony they came from. Back when we were living in Canterlot, the only gifts Twilight ever wanted from Princess Celestia were getting to spend extra time talking with her, or for some dusty old book from her study.
I hate to break it to you, Sugar Cube, but I'm fresh out of magic books. I haven't ruled Equestria for so much as a day, either.
That's not what I mean. Twilight wanted that stuff because it was special to Celestia, and that made it special to Twilight. What Twilight really loves isn't books, it's learning and getting closer to ponies while she does it. And that used to be just Celestia and the ancient ponies she'd read about, but now it's all of us. She'd love something related to Ponyville or Earth Pony history. Just find some dusty heirloom and explain why it's important. She'll go nuts.
Applejack pushed the bowl aside.
Wow, that's not what I expected at all, Spike. Thanks.
Spike dragged his fork against his now empty plate and gave a deep sigh.
You're welcome.
What's wrong, Sugar Cube? You just saved me a whole lot of worry, not to mention bits.
I didn't think you had Twilight's name. I came out here so I could trade you for Rarity.
Applejack laughed.
I guess I can't blame you for wanting that. Sorry, I don't have her name, but if I read all of our friends' reactions right, I think I could point you in the right direction.
Spike jumped up.
Really? You know who has Rarity's name?
Applejack cocked an eyebrow and smiled.
I reckon I do.